No.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Zero Interest. This time we're looking at episode 12, the final episode of Death Parade Suicide Tour.
How many episodes have I opened that with?
Every single one of them past, I think, since episode 4.
Yeah,
Starting at 5.
Yeah, sounds about right. All right, so this episode opens with Nona and Flower Power, and he tries to grab her in his tentacle grope thing that he has. And she dodges it and is like, "What the fuck you doing?" And she's like, "I forget more background stuff," and he's pissed because she had Dekim start to feel emotions and is encouraging it, if quietly. And he's like, "You shouldn't do that because reasons." More importantly, we get back to Dekim and the attendant. I forgot her name again. Chiyuki, yeah. And he takes her unconscious body down to the lowest level of whatever the whole place is called. And she wakes up in her old bed back at home. And she looks around and stuff, and Dekim explains, "Yeah, you're still, in a dummy body. You're not here, but,
He says 3 months have passed since your death.
Yeah, it's like that thing where you come back and you're just a ghost and no one can actually see you. So she's looking around and seeing how everything's changed, and basically the house is very empty and a little cold and stifled. And there is a shrine to her, as is Japanese custom, in the living room. And her mom comes home and immediately goes to the shrine to talk to her. And eventually breaks down crying and apologizing for being a bad parent because she didn't understand what was going on, and that she was...
I think you're getting a little bit out of order here.
I don't care. So outside, Dekim is like, "Hey, if you want to go back, I can make that happen. This button," and he gets the clicky thing out again, "will take the life of someone else, but you will be able to come back. And the memories of everyone who knew you died will be altered, so it's like you never died."
Yep. This is a button you just... There you go.
And I see what you mean now about... In the previous episode, you mentioned that doing this exact test with whatever his name was
Ginty.
Thank you. I don't care.
They were trying to do a parallel thing.
I don't care. Except it's not a parallel because they do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I know.
They do the exact same thing in not the exact same way, but basically in the same way. And neither of them exactly goes against it. Like, if Dekim decided against doing this whole thing, giving up the charade, maybe, but he doesn't. They just repeated the thing for no reason. So, I don't know. If they really, really, really had to do that in the previous episode, that thing that they wanted to do, apparently, and that they did in the previous episode, if they'd have done it in this one and just had them side by side, probably would have worked better. Because
one of the
big problem with doing it in the previous episode means we know from word one that this is a con.
This is the... The thing in particular with this show that we've gone on about with the problem has been the structuring and the pacing.
There's another thing that's come up.
There's
We'll get to
there's
that.
other problems, but that's been a big one. Is the way this show's been structured, the way it's been paced, because this was made as an original anime. There wasn't a source material involved that we were aware of, and as a result of that, I feel like maybe adapting it actually would have worked better, if that makes sense.
I have no idea how you're coming to that conclusion because the structure and the pacing being off is usually a symptom of adaptation of a work that was ongoing and thus was a little bit rushed and not
I
planned
think
especially well.
I think a good adaptation could help because there's one specific thing I'm thinking about because most adaptations they're bad and they make things worse, but Mob Psycho 100 shifts around several events to make it into a more coherent, more just stronger as an anime than it might have been as a manga, and I could see a restructuring thing possibly helping if this thing were to get that sort of same treatment, but I don't think it would solve all the problems at all.
I think that's a massive cherry picking of examples because we acknowledged when we were reviewing Mob Psycho that is a thing that does not happen. Like a vast majority of the time, adaptations do not get that kind of treatment. They just get done exactly as they were.
When I first saw this episode, and we're going to go back to just kind of talking about what happened in this episode, I really did like this episode when I first saw it. But again, I wasn't looking at it with a necessarily critical eye. And on that note, on that regard, I did like it, but when you look at it from a more critical perspective, there's so much more they could have done. And it feels like we say that a lot with this show.
Right. So, she is about to say yes, but then she realizes everyone is important to someone. So her taking the life of someone else so she could live again is not
She
fair.
has
Yada
flashbacks.
yada.
She has flashbacks of all the people who have been through the
Yada yada.
which
Yada,
would have been
yada.
let me actually talk about this, shall
All
I,
right.
dude? Which would have been a better point of going through all the stories and anthological aspects of this show if there had been more of those anthological stories that were being told.
It treats it like it's a massive, just the blind has come off kind of moment. Like, this is just a watershed moment. She realizes, oh, people care about other people.
Mm.
Like, that. What was this show supposed to be? Like, the entire point of the judgment thing is whether you're a decent person or not. Right? Whether you were a decent person and thus should be able to go back and do it again, basically. And the implication from doing this in the previous episode with that other girl was she put that aspect into her calculations of am I willing to do this? And she said yes. She was willing to do that. She was willing to take someone else's life, even though, yeah, that person probably had friends and people who cared about them and family and all that stuff. She didn't care. It was more important to her that she got what's-his-name back.
Yes.
But this here is treating it like that girl never realized that. I'm not... The point of having a long, overarching story, like a serialized work, rather than procedural, just like one episode at a time, separate stories, anthologies, is you have to be trying to actually get a message across the end.
Mm.
There's got to be something you're trying to accomplish and convey to the viewer. That's why you have long story arcs like this, especially ones that aren't especially character driven, what with the fact that half of the cast aren't technically characters, or rather they're not supposed to be because they're not supposed to have emotions. So what they've gotten out of this is the most cookie cutter moral you could possibly get. People care about people. Thank you so much, Death Parade, for conveying that message. I had no fucking idea that was the case.
People care about people. Have empathy. Don't just murder somebody so you can come back to life.
This show accomplished nothing, but had pretensions that it was actually saying something worthwhile.
It's so nice to see you get whipped up into a frenzy again.
So, to get back to the plot. She's about to do it. She has this massive, great revelation of wisdom. And realizes, no, that's kind of a shitty thing to do, so I'm not going to do it. Hey, Dekim, you press the fucking button. For some... I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But the illusion shatters. Everything falls apart. Turns out they were in the bottom floor of the Judgment Place, whatever it's called. And that's where they store all the mannequins. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Dekim has an emotional outburst where he starts to cry, and the thing on his eyes is gone. And it's like now he feels the real emotions.
Yeah, which Flower Power and Nona have a conversation over this happening. And it's basically... yeah, this is probably better for reasons, because now he can feel and understand suffering when he causes suffering in other people, so he can understand what they're feeling and feel empathy, so he can suffer along with them for the rest of eternity while he's judging. What? Is that the moral? That the Arbiters are supposed to be in hell, effectively, with eternal suffering and torment of tormenting people that they don't want to torment, and causing pain and misery for the rest of their existence?
My connection cut out real hard just then.
Okay. Dekim can feel now.
Yes.
Yeah? Which means he understands feelings. He understands the suffering he causes with the judgments and with the fact that people are dead and feel pain a lot. And with that empathy comes understanding, comes suffering along with them. So now his job is to feel and understand the suffering of everyone he comes across for the rest of all time, because he is an arbiter, and arbiters have to continue making judgments forever with no breaks. So basically, what Nona has accomplished is making sure all of the arbiters experience a never-ending hell from which they can never escape. Debatably, actually worse than the void.
Yeah.
What was the point of this?
It is so... the philosophical aspect they go to is the most surface level, and it's actually... we can change. We should be able to feel. We should be able to make accurate judgments and understand people, because that's the only way you can really... Do you remember earlier on in the show when we were talking about all the background stuff, and I said there was no real payoff because they wanted to do another season, it seemed like?
Mm.
This is what I meant. It felt like there was no real payoff for all the stuff with the background stuff. And like one more season is what they were trying to go for, but they didn't get it.
I don't think so. I actually disagree. I think this is all they intended to do. Because I have no idea how they would actually try and pay that off in a second season, where Dekim is feeling emotions and thus is gun-shy about doing every single judgment, because he doesn't want to cause suffering anymore, because he understands it.
I was more aiming for there's stuff said between Nona and Beard Guy, which is like, well, you're on thin ice, Nona. Guess we'll see where this goes. Season 2. And I'm like, they were obviously trying to set something up.
Maybe.
I don't know where they would have gone. I don't know how they would have done it, but
And then Dekim greets another series of guests, and he smiles. Cool.
His
Enjoy your eternal torment, Dekim. You earned it.
Chiyuki goes to the reincarnation cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. I'm mad about this. I'm more mad than I should be because this has been coming since episode 5.
I haven't seen you this mad since Ruby.
You know what this has in common with Ruby? A massive fucking waste of potential. That's why it makes me mad.
Because I'd say if you're not thinking it through and you're not critically analyzing the show, I'd say it's an average, okay-ish show. But once you start to really dig into it, you find that there's just nothing, and as a result, you're just like, this could have been something way more, because it's such an interesting concept that could have been executed in a lot of different ways. But
here's the thing. You know what the surface level moral and the basic human condition 101 philosophy tells me? This was a kid show. This is another one of those shows where values dissonance between Japan and the West says, yeah, kids shouldn't be watching this. But in Japan, they don't give a shit about that sort of shit. Kids should learn lessons and do it through visceral means, and that's okay. And that's what this was. This was, hey kids, empathy's good. Here's some violence to get you through, so you're entertained while you learn that lesson.
I mean, you're not wrong, but at the same time, I don't want you to be right.
Yeah. So, cool. Can we get an adult version of the show now, where they actually play it straight? It's just a story of people understanding their last moments and where they're going to go for their afterlife. And the stories are just about very similar to this, only there isn't an overarching moral that you learn by age 10. That'd be cool. I'd be good with that. Please do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the show that you, the fans, voted for.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, by the way.
It wasn't actually going to be in the poll that I was making, but people kept saying, do Death Parade. So I added it into the poll, and then it won. And, yeah. Next time we see you guys with zero interest, we're going to be doing a show that Casey chooses.
Sure, whenever I figure what that will be, which will be coming out in December at the earliest, because it's NaNoWriMo, which means that I'm going to be busy.
Mm-hmm.
So.
See you guys next time. Bye-bye.